I mean, that's partly why I chose it, because the only reason I did it was that I waited too long on my language credits.
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
With Sebring being built on an old air base and being located in Florida, it naturally has very little elevation change. But this doesn't mean that it's a flat track. In fact, the bumpy surface of this circuit is notorious for catching out even the best drivers. Their unpredictable nature could wind up being exactly what Acosta doesn't want tonight, with him attempting to wrap up the championship. We'll see if he can manage it as we get ready to watch round 9 of the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Chris Phoebe. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beer. The drivers have been practicing for a while now and are pretty familiar with things by this point, but for our viewers who haven't been around this place dozens of times, let's head down for our track guide. Welcome to Watkins Glen International. Situated in upstate New York, just south of the Finger Lakes, this track has seen it all. Few road circuits can boast hosting Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, and IMSA during its history. Though it did have a brief fallow period in the early 80s, thanks to the investment of local companies, it's grown into one of the premier road tracks in the U.S. With 4 layouts to choose from that range between 2.5. Welcome to Sebring International Raceway. Home to the 12 Hours of Sebring, one of the most grueling tests in endurance racing, this is a track which has earned a fearsome reputation among drivers. The circuit itself is located on the southeastern edge of the city of Sebring, Florida, and was built out of Hendricks Army Airfield shortly after World War II. 3 layouts are currently in use, ranging from 1.7 to 3.7 miles in length. The longest course, which is perhaps the most well-known with it being the one used for the famed endurance race, shockingly still contains portions of the original airfield surface. It's this aspect which has become a signature feature of the track, making it extremely bumpy for racing. Sunset Bend in particular nearly shakes cars apart while they attempt to navigate the high-speed 180-degree corner. As you'd expect for the side of an airfield, there's nearly no elevation change over the course of a lap, but many of the curves are dramatically tall and unforgiving, daring drivers to glance them yet not hit them directly. Thankfully, places to pass are plentiful, including spots like the Hairpin and Cunningham. However, the many fast, sweeping turns creates a dilemma for car setup, since a vehicle that's made too stiff could wind up bottoming out on the onerous bumps. In the end, if you have the wherewithal to withstand the track's rough nature, you're likely to fare well. And since Florida fans almost always show up in huge numbers to witness this test of car and driver, you'll have plenty to impress at this legendary North American road course. Well, the nice thing, Chris, is that in our track guide, we can at least see the track, and it's looking like it's going to be just a little dark out here for today's race, though.
Yeah, hopefully these guys don't have any random wildlife running across the track. Although I think all they have in Florida is alligators, right?
Yeah, something around that. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about what's involved in the details of this combination?
Well, driving at night is definitely going to be a challenge around this old airstrip. But what you're going to see here at Sebring is a very bumpy track. There's going to be a lot of bumps under braking that can upset the car a little bit and make these corners a little bit hazardous for some of these drivers. Alongside that, though, this is really a racer's track. A lot of flat, fast corners, easy enough for me to say, that are going to be a lot of wrestling the car around. And really, there's several great passing points around this track that should make for an interesting race. And the added element of being at night is going to make it even more fun.
Yeah, hopefully it won't cause too many headaches for our drivers. But as always, today's race is brought to you by SIMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working organizations, companies, manufacturers, teams, and drivers together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. They're also bridging virtual and real motorsports, involving sim racers, real drivers, teams, managers, engineers, and of course, motorsport fans alike. You can find out more about how you can get involved at simsa.net. Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Put yourself in the driver's seat. The winner of Division 1 here in the PRL GTE Sportscar Series will get a Butt Kicker Gamer 2 or a simulation kit. Also, both drivers of the winning team in the team's championship will get a free t-shirt. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Now, let's take a look at that championship, starting with the drivers, of course. I mentioned a little bit about it that we could see things get wrapped up today. As up at the top, it is Abner Acosta. Now, it is only 16 points between himself and Eisler, but of course, if Eisler fails to score, Acosta could put himself out of reach. The surprise this season is that Karl Modoff is really under the gun. He has got to outscore Acosta by roughly 10 points or more, or else he will not be able to come back and take the championship in round 10 next week. So unless something bad happens to Acosta, it's likely that we'll see Modoff fall out of the running here today. And then you see Munoz and Pisano round out your top five in a very close fight with Modoff as well for that third spot. Why don't we look and check to see what the team's championship is doing as well, Chris?
Yeah, looks like that Punto Racing CL team, the blue team, excuse me, is got a pretty healthy margin over the field right now, with a 107-point gap over the RSR Esports team. So definitely a pretty solid gap here as the season's winding down with just a couple rounds left. And the GTR SimSport team hanging in there around third, still has a pretty good shot at second place if things work out well. And the SRT Esports team and Blue and GTR SimSport team Blue hanging out there at the back of the top five. Like I said, probably a little bit out of contention for the championship, but definitely a good battle between those teams for the remaining handful of spots.
It certainly seems like it's been a bit of a domination. So I guess those T-shirts are likely going one way, especially after today is over. Now, let's look at the race details as well. We are in round 9 out of 10 for this series, so it's coming down to it here. And there's 4 different makes of cars that you can race. These are all GTE class cars that they run in this series. There's the ones that you can see on your screen that you can choose from. 60-minute races in this series with open setups, but they've limited the fuel, so expect at least one pit stop. They have an incident cap of 20 incidents. You will be disqualified at that 20 mark. You will disappear instantly. It's easy to rack them up, especially in the dark around here, if you're not paying attention to how close you are to the edges. And they've got some bonus points on hand, which, of course, guys like Eisler and Modoff will be working hard to try and get. One of those being the pole position we'll cover in a minute here, which is going on right now. As we get ready to look at that, a quick reminder that you're watching this on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe. Very easy to do so. If you click the big red button that says subscribe below us on YouTube, you won't miss a moment here on IESN. Now, Acosta has been quick in the warm-up. He seems to be quick here in the qualifying because he's on the provisional pole. Question is, will he be quick in the race as well? Christian Eisler, interestingly, he managed to get himself up into second in the warm-up here, Chris, but Christian's still got a little bit of ground to make up. He's about half a second off of Acosta, though he still has time to try and improve.
Yeah. Yeah, this still quite a bit of a gap, but nonetheless, he's still up there in the mix, and maybe having the good starting spot, even if he doesn't have the pace in qualifying, maybe enough to kind of carry him through. With the race being at nighttime, I think it's going to be a whole new element for these drivers as well. So there's still a lot of variables in place, and I think we're probably going to see some adjusting and fine tuning over the remainder of this qualifying session.
And also, Tyler Zube not looking too bad here. He's sitting in third. Usually relatively fast, but this is a very good qualifying for the number 21. And Paulo Munoz, one of our other drivers who has taken wins this season, who's sitting fourth, interestingly enough, but is a long ways, or well, not a long ways back. He's about as far back as Modoff, but obviously not expecting him to do as well, considering Modoff has been pretty quick. But Munoz is up in second, so maybe Paulo is one to watch out for in things. Certainly, it's been a little bit in favor of Abner Acosta in terms of this qualifying. He's taken 4 poles to the only 2 of Karl Modoff. Granted, Modoff has been quick in the races because he's taken 4 wins in response.
Well, that's quite a response then. If you can take those 4 wins, it's going to make for a pretty good season.
We watch Dzube come across the line another time, but his third lap not counting. Only his first one has gone down on the charts here since he's had some offs in the last two. Christopher Pfeffer out here in 8th position is also got a similar situation. Only his second lap is counted. His other two have not worked out for him. Let's see if he can take this Ford around for another clean lap and get himself higher than this 8th spot. As he comes off of Sunset Bend, down into the line, a 55.618 is going to stay that way because he had another off track in there. Trying to find out. Let's see. Modoff actually struggling a bit in the qualifying himself. He's still in 7th, just ahead of Pfeffer right now.
Yeah, I was going to comment on that. For a driver that's kind of fighting for his life as far as the championship goes, does not look like this qualifying is really going too great in his favor. And gosh, these guys having a whole lot of trouble staying on the track so far in this session.
Yeah, it seems like that darkness that you mentioned is proved to be pretty tough here today. So watch Espinoza come around. He sits in 6th. Those last three we've been covering here all clumped together. Pfeffer, Modoff, and Espinoza. In fact, Espinoza with the same issue. He's had 3 laps that don't count and only 1 that did. Currently, it's heavily favored in the side of Abner Acosta with almost 4/10 over Paulo Munoz currently. It's really looking like it's going to be hard for everybody to try and catch him, as see Ted Lowendick himself struggling to get the car around. And with only 2 minutes left, he might not be able to get it back out for another lap because it takes a while to get around this track.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in this qualifying session. It's really going to hinder some of these drivers. And that is such a great lap by Acosta to have such a solid lead over the rest of the field. He's definitely shown why he is where he is in the championship.
Perez is getting the draft, and Paulo Munoz did improve, but it was just by hundredths of a second, as he's still 4/10 down from Abner Acosta, unfortunately. And waiting to see who else is close to finishing a lap here. I believe 5th place driver Cal Quinn is going to be finishing up soon, as well as Fredes, who's now coming onto the Ullman straight. In fact, he's just behind Cal Quinn. This is who we're seeing just ahead of him. Up to Sunset Bend. Cal Quinn sitting in 5th place. Fredes is in 12th. Is this going to bring the 96 a little bit higher up? Gaining that slipstream up in front of him. Cal Quinn across the line. That one doesn't count. So another off for him. Whereas Fredes also had an off somewhere in there. See what Dzube can do. He's coming towards the line. He's bringing Brett Thurman along with him. Another driver getting a little bit of a tow. Dzube with another one that didn't count. 30 seconds left. They are now starting their last chance to get a timed lap in.
I got to tell you, these guys are kind of killing my buzz on these qualifying laps. You watch them throw these cars around and then only to get to the line and have the lap not count. These penalties for going off track are just killing them today.
It makes me wonder if we're going to have to watch out for cars disappearing into the darkness from off-track penalties in the race. As the checkered flag comes out, everybody now finishing the last flying lap. Justin Ream in 6th place is going to be the first to cross. Let's see if he can go quicker than that 55.3 that he set last time around. And no, he can't. Just James LeBlanc going to be the next one, followed by David Duino. LeBlanc's quickest has him in 29th. It's a 57.2. He comes across the line. That's not quicker. Duino abandons his lap, so he's not going to set a time. Then we've got Cal Quinn and Fredes coming around, and it looks like Cal Quinn is off, so that's his qualifying over. What about Fredes, still sitting in 13th? So we watch Carollo also come around to finish his lap in the 52.27th. Is this an improvement? Looks like it is not. Now we're watching Fredes in the number 96. The Ferrari 488 down to the line. And it's not going to be an improvement once again.
That's too bad because he was really throwing that car around. I can't believe how close these guys are getting to the inside wall there in a couple of these turns. In the darkness, even. I mean, that is insane.
Brett Thurman and the number 69. He does improve, actually by a big margin, and that puts him up to 20th. Is this the last of them? Looks like the number 11 out there, Billy Jansen. And he also jumps up. That puts him in 19th. That's going to be the last of them. So all of our drivers have completed their laps. It's a relatively large field here today. So why don't we go through that starting order here for round 9 in the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. Going to be Abner Acosta starting on the pole, and it's nearly half a second over his nearest rival. That doesn't bode well for anybody hoping to beat him in the championship. Paulo Munoz could be one, but it's going to be a difficult ask as he starts in second with a lot of time on the board to make up. Tyler DeZube will be starting in third with Christian Eisler, the second in the championship, most closely trailing Acosta, starting fourth today on the grid. Ratio Cal Quinn, he'll start P5. Then you got Justin Ream in sixth position. Andre Espinoza starts seventh today. Carl Modoff, despite having the most wins of anybody so far this season, starting eighth. But again, qualifying hasn't been his strong suit compared to some of the others. Christopher Pfeffer is going to be starting in ninth with Ted Lowendick rounding out your top 10.
Just outside of the top 10 is going to be Ignacio Hortal in 11th spot, followed by Anthony Pisano. Ignacio Fredes is going to be next up in 13th with Leif Peterson, 14th. 15th on the grid will be Robert Elder, followed by Caleb John Lavender in 16th. And you're going to see Ken Huber in car number 30 start off 17th on the grid. Jean-Marc Tremblay in 18th with Billy Jansen, and Sean Romig completing your top 20.
Brett Thurman starts 21st today. Then you've got Sean Duhamel in 22nd. David Duino, 23rd on the grid. Kenny Rodriguez, he'll be starting in the 24th spot. We've got Jason Ray next to him in 25th with Christopher Albright in the 26th spot. The inside of the next row, it's Jeff Carollo in 27th. Chase Mundy will flank him in 28th. James LeBlanc starts 29th. Spencer Simkovich starts 30th. And Gary Schilling rounds out your 31 car field. Everybody got laps in, despite it looking like we might not get everybody with a lap down. But I guess at least one clean one was able to be knocked out, despite the difficulties. You can see they're lining up on one of the few well-lit portions of this racetrack, the front stretch, just along that pit straight, waiting for the Porsche pace car to lead them around on their pace lap. Should be a very, very tough race for these drivers. We keep harping on the darkness, but it is so tough out here. You have to know your turn-in points, your braking points very well. Be able to deal with a lack of vision besides what your headlights are lighting up. And then, of course, we talked about the bumps as well. It's known to take out a few drivers. Tend to see a little bit of attrition at this place here, Chris.
Yeah, I can definitely see why. This is a bumpy old airfield, and as a result, it's going to be really tough on these cars. And with the incident cap limit and the darkness added onto it, it's going to make for a tough hour of racing for these guys.
Eisler is hoping to try and stay in this championship, or, well, I guess take this championship to Acosta. He's going to have to beat him on track. Even if he is beat, he can still be in the hunt, but it'll be even more difficult because a 16-point gap is already pretty large. The bad news is that Eisler has only outscored Acosta in 2 rounds so far. So Eisler is... he's certainly not looking like he's going to be quicker based on the stats so far, but can't count him out. Sometimes we've seen things turn around before.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how this race kicks off. with a driver as fast as Acosta starting up front. That's going to be a huge positive for him. But there's a lot of cars that I think once this race goes on and they're able to adjust to the conditions, I think we'll see a lot of guys start moving towards the front as well.
Yeah, maybe that attrition will certainly pay dividends for a few drivers as they now come out of Big Bend towards one of the more popular places to pass here into the hairpin. The pace car leading them under the lights of a few of the bridges. You can see a very tight corner that one is. Heavy braking, certainly enticing drivers to try and have a go into there. But here it starts to get a little bit more technical now as they come up through Fangis and then, or Fangio rather. Fangis is over in Spa. Fangio and then up into Cunningham. Another place where sometimes passes get attempted. Boy, kicking up a lot of dust at the side of the track there. Look at that.
I was noticing that in qualifying too. It seemed like these guys were driving through dust clouds just about every lap.
Interesting. And looking to see, yeah, they started the practice at 0%, but even still, I would have thought that the track would have been more cleaned up by that point. Not sure why it is quite that dusty offline. They come out of the Tower and Collier section now in through Bishop and Jean Dembien. Very swift couple of corners, almost a chicane, but not quite. More like a set of S's through here. You can see they've got a lot of paved runoff in what used to be some of the landing strip area, which then takes them onto the longest run we've got here, Chris. The run down the Ullman Straight towards Sunset Bend.
Yeah, this is such a historic course here in the United States. I mean, really, a lot of the major road racing that we have in this country really owes its roots to this track.
Yeah, and in fact, I think it's one of the longest running road circuits here in the States. I'd have to double check and see what exactly that record is that it owns, but it's been around for a long time. It's changed shape a lot of times too, but we don't have time to wax about that changing shape because we're getting ready to go green for round 9 of the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. Acosta is going to be given control from the Porsche pace car, which peels on in. Green flag comes out almost immediately, but it's a great jump from the number 5 over Paulo Munoz. In fact, Munoz has to go a little bit defensive with Tyler DeZube looking to the inside as they come down into the first corner. Still a lot of 2 and 3 wide as they swing it into this fast left-hander. So far, so good through the pack. Still sorting it out, but at least they made it past the first turn.
Yeah, this track does not seem exceptionally wide, even with the widening they've done over the years to it. So these guys are going to have a very tight racing here to do in the middle of the night here in Sebring, Florida.
So far, so good. Still not seeing any big incidents. Mostly single file with the top 10 here. It looks like our first big battles are down between Fredes and Pisano, as well as Lowendick here in 10th position. And I think we did have an incident because I see LeBlond off. Ooh, bunch of cars. Albright was involved, Simkovich, Schilling, and Corolla. We'll come back to the replay later, but that is a huge group of cars. Meanwhile, already out of tower for our leaders. Sorry there, Chris.
Oh, it looks like we're about to make the same point there, Joe.
It's Acosta leading Munoz, who's regained a little bit of that time since the start, so trying to give chase on the number 5. Tyler DeZube as well starting to gain slightly. They pulled a gap from 4th place. Christian Eisler, 2nd place in the championship. He's got to start hustling. He's got to catch up with that top group as we see, oh, is this a slowdown penalty? I think that's Paulo Munoz off to the side of the track and dropping positions quickly.
Yeah, it looked like something must have happened because Munoz lost a lot of positions there really quick, so looks like he may have gotten maybe a penalty, a slowdown or something.
Yeah, he must have cut the course coming through Le Mans. Meanwhile, Ignacio Hortal also seems to have had a spin. He gets it going once again. think Fred is going to be overtaken by Lowendick. Yes, indeed. Looks like Ted takes that number 172 up into 10th place. There you see, he's got the Ford ahead of the Ferrari as they break for turn 3. A lot of action here on the first lap. And even though Lowendick is still being threatened by that number 96, I don't think Fred is close enough to have a go here into the hairpin. Let's wait, and if... Oh, it sounds like we got action happening for 4th. Calquin and Munoz. Excuse me, no, that's Calquin and Ream, rather. Side by side as they come up towards Cunningham. To the inside, it looks like Calquin might have the advantage, but he's got to complete it because it's going to switch back. Oh, and they'll come together. A little bit of net code, and that's going to send him out, and that causes more contact as Munoz tries to check up. 3 wide, potentially. No. Espinoza to the outside as Modoff tries to stick his nose in. Modoff is going to get the position, and poor Calquin is stuck at the side of the track, facing the wrong way with the entire field streaming by.
Yeah, that's about as bad of a situation as possible for Calquin there as he unfortunately drops towards the back of the field.
Pretty sure they did not make actual contact on my screen. We'll go back and look at it in a bit. Meanwhile, on screen, who's this battle we're watching? Oh, more slowdown penalties behind them. It's Lowendick, and it looks like Pisano. Both of them giving away a lot of positions, hanging out around the inside of the Ullman Straight as they watch everybody go by at full speed. And they're still getting, oh my goodness, this one hurts for Ted Lowendick. He's still giving positions away. So, oh, and Carl Modoff is off. What happened there for the 948? He just gained a position. And coming around turn 1, he's way off into the grass. Oh, he's got big damage. Watch this to the inside wall. Oh my goodness, that hit hard. Chris, that is a whole race he's got to deal with that. This is not good news.
Yeah, we have quite a bit of time still left in this one, north of 50 minutes, and that's going to make for a very long evening.
All right, have we finally got things calming down a little bit now? I guess not, because 4th place, now it's Justin Rame and Paulo Munoz who are trying to fight for this one, and Paulo making up positions for a slowdown penalty on lap 1. Is he able to get into tower? Yes, he is. Nice textbook maneuver to the inside is going to give him P4, but he's got about 3.5 seconds to make up to Christian Eisler. Going to be a little bit of a longer trek to make up more spots.
I got to say, I'm really impressed with the racing here so far. Maybe not the greatest on a technical basis, but these guys are laying it all out there for sure.
Munoz able to pull away from Justin now, but oh, Carl Modoff with more problems? Did he have a slowdown? I think another slowdown penalty. This all has been coming from Lamal Corner, and that sends him back to 9th now, along with his damage that he's suffering from. He's got Robert Elder behind him, looking to demote him one more. How much is this damage going to hurt him down the straight? Quite a bit, because you can see he's very slow in a straight line. Elder down to the inside, making easy pickings of the multi-time champion. Apologies to those who wanted to see the replay for those opening incidents. We just haven't really had a break in the action to try and go back and look, especially with so many major players involved with all that's been happening out on track. It's like you got a string of cars, and though Modoff falls to 10th, he's going to stop the bleeding at least down here into the hairpin, because Huber's not going to make an attempt in that yellow Ferrari. A lot of cars in this group, led by Elder, Modoff at second in line, Huber in there, Peterson, Lavender, Tremblay, and all the way back to Pisano in P15.
Yeah, I was looking over the field, Joe, and thinking, wow, maybe these guys have calmed down for a second. and then you realize that like half the field, it seems like, is within a second of each other. It's insane how close these guys are running.
All right, I don't think we're seeing anybody make a move for now, so maybe you have enough time to duck away for that very first incident on lap 1 down in the hairpin. Let's see if we can spool that replay up. Yeah, we've got that one spooled up here, so I haven't even got to take a chance, take a look at this yet. Might need to fast forward just a little bit since this happened in the hairpin. Watching from Schilling's perspective here. Yeah, here we go. Yes, let's see what happens from here. This is into Big Bend now that they're coming around. A whole lot of cars. Still a whole lot of that dirt being kicked up, Chris. And it looks like it's clearing up a little bit now, but let's see if we can spy what happened ahead of them. Someone looks like maybe they got out of shape a little bit there. We're going to look at a second incident here. Let's see, which one are we looking at? Oh, no, we're back live. Sorry. We had a change between Tremblay and Pisano for 14th place. Pisano's going to get that one away in the hairpin, rather.
You know, Joe, there's so much going on. It's really hard to say what's a replay from an incident before and what's actually going on live.
Yeah, sometimes we can get confused. I mean, and it's dark out. We can use that as an excuse as they now swing it through Collier. Acosta is still leading, by the way. We haven't really mentioned it because, well, he's gapped Zube by nearly 4 seconds and has been unchallenged. Christian Eisler is watching this championship continue to slip away from him. He's still in third, about 2 more seconds back from Tyler.
You know, one of the jokes I like to make in the short track racing world when we have a driver that's got a really big lead is that it's the leader and then a big open gap. Well, I guess in this case right now it's the leader, Acosta, and then a 3.5 second black dark abyss.
It really is. And I have to imagine he wants to see the abyss in his rearview mirrors. He doesn't want to see any sort of headlights show up. We're watching from Modoff. There's a little bit of side-by-side behind him. That looks like that's Leif Peterson and Lavender, and I think Lavender is going to solidify P12 in that fight. As they come down the front stretch, will Peterson maybe have another go into turn 1? It's a little far back. Oh, but he sticks it in, and he takes a very shallow line on entry. Can he manage to get it off the corner fast enough? He's still got a little bit of a nose in. And he's going to try it a second time down into turn 3, and second time is indeed a charm as Lavender gives way.
Well, those two drivers must have a tremendous amount of trust in each other because they've been exchanging that position back and forth. And great racing, but a couple of those little twisty, turny moves are a little bit dicey.
And they are bringing in Tremblay and Pisano as well behind them. So it's becoming a 4-car battle, as you can see on screen. Up towards Cunningham, another passing zone. Peterson's getting a little bit closer once again. Or excuse me, Lavender's getting closer to Peterson, rather. But as they break for that corner, he's not quite close enough. Here's some of those more narrow parts you were talking about, Chris. Everybody kind of staying single file, and Peterson making a bit of a mistake coming out of tower.
I've noticed that seems to be something pretty easy to do in that section of the track is kind of let it get away from you there.
It's not the first one for sure to have that happen. All right, good slipstream for Lavender as they come down the Ullman straight. He's staying right in the tire tracks of the 913. Too wide out and through Sunset Bend is not an easy feat, but these two did it last lap. Are they going to do it all over again? Peterson gives him space at the apex, way offline, all the way out, but manages to keep it off the grass. Lavender says, thank you very much. I want that P12 back. Ooh, and maybe returning the favor down into turn 1. Peterson tries to get in there, but he gets chopped off at the nose.
Yeah, that was a very bold move to shut the door on that one.
Oh, and here we go again. He opened the door on Pisano, and Pisano says, thank you, I also want a spot. So now Anthony gets 13th with a little bit of a rude shove through the 4-5 section of corners. And the 913 has now fallen to 14th position, 2 positions down, and just a couple turns.
Yeah, these drivers are starting to get their elbows out and maybe leaning on that incident cap a little bit here in the not too distant future.
We've only had one DNF for all of us talking about the attrition being a factor. Cal Quinn is the only one in the 666 to have disappeared on us. And actually, he's been getting repairs, so he might come back out on track. Gary Schilling has been in and out after taking some repairs of his own and is 30th on track. Peterson still sandwiched between Pisano and Tremblay here on screen. And we do have a replay for what happened to Cal Quinn. I think since we've calmed down, let's go and take a glance at what happened. Let's see if it really was netcode like I initially called. Let's see. This this one happened in Collier, if I'm not mistaken, so I'm not sure. Yeah, this is down the Ullman Strait, so we've got a ways to go before we get to the incident here. I think, yeah, yeah, here we go. This is the incident as they come side by side. And this is what started to kick it off. Oh, yeah, definitely. Huge ghost contact between them. And though the tree blocked us, I can tell you that he slammed into the barrier very, very hard there. That was a great angle right there. Oh, and I don't think he even hit the tires there. It looks like he just went straight to concrete. So we come back live. Christopher Pfeffer and Andre Espinoza sorting out P6 on track, about a quarter of the way into the race now. Down into Cunningham for the two of them. They're not too far behind Justin Rame, but they're not in a position to try and challenge him. If they do start fighting, that certainly won't help the case. You can see them getting speed up now as they swing it through Bishop down into Jean Demian. Espinoza keeping himself safe as he's got about 0.6 over Pfeffer. Got a lot of cars as well down in a train still. We've seen this a lot in the mid-pack. Elder breaking away from Huber, who is leading Modoff, Lavender, Pisano, and Peterson. Looks like actually Peterson might have a little bit of a chance down into Sunset Bend once again on Pisano, but he decides better of it and stays in line. This is for 13th place.
Yeah, we have a slew of cars out there all in position, following along with Peterson here. And it's pretty impressive actually how much these headlights can do for these guys with how dark this track really is. It looks like Peterson maybe has eyes on making a move here.
Peterson has not been having the best of starts to this race, losing multiple spots. Granted, he started in 14th, so he's back to where he began the race. As he continues to try and chase down Pisano, still not getting a chance into the hairpin. All of them staying right in line with one another. Down into Cunningham once more. Modoff, he's down to 11th. We saw he had some damage, or at least we saw him get some damage. I don't know if we've really gotten a good close-up. It's so hard to see in the dark here how much exactly he's got.
Yeah, Modoff has definitely had a rough night. Looks like he's got Caleb Lavender closing in behind him here pretty close too.
Yeah, this makes me think that he's struggling. He's maybe just trying to get to the pit window so he can get some repairs with an early stop. Lavender on his rear end as they come onto the Ullman straight. We have a little bit of damage on it that we can see just on the front left. Didn't think it would cause him quite that much, but then we don't know if the suspension is damaged. Down the straightaway, Lavender doesn't have enough top speed, but he still takes a look down to the inside. Swinging it off the corner. Modoff with a good defense, showing why he's a multi-time champion, even with a damaged car, managing to keep others behind him.
You got to think too, watching him struggle, Lavender might be smelling blood in the water, so to speak, and that's going to make him maybe a little more bold when he sees the car in front of him wounded, but that's also going to make him very prone to possibly making a mistake if he can't possibly keep the focus there. So it's going to be interesting to see this one play out long term.
And so far, nothing there as, oh, we have a pass for 6 because Espinoza has now been caught by Pfeffer, who's going to try to go around the outside of the hairpin, doing it the hard way. He might just have it, but they're still side by side. Great exit from Espinoza in the 87. It's a drag race up to Cunningham as they come to the braking zone. Espinoza with the inside. Is that going to be enough to finish it off? Not quite. Once again, pinching him down to the apex. Christopher Pfeffer. Beautiful move to give him 6th.
That was textbook, the way he completed the pass there. Pinched him down and gave himself the better drive off and was able to complete the pass around. That was an absolutely beautiful move.
Credit to Espinoza, too. He could have drifted out and shoved into him, but he made sure that he didn't. So Pfeffer gets it, and now he's got to contend with Fredes just behind him. A little bit of a mistake going a little wide there from Pfeffer as they swing it through Jean Demien, but now it's onto the Ullman straight, and they all start to spread apart, everybody getting themselves a good run.
Yeah, looks like maybe taking a second to catch their breath after that fun little exchange they had going on.
I have to imagine they need it with how exciting it's been in this portion of the field. Still nobody making any moves into Sunset Bend. Now that Pfeffer's gotten by Espinoza, can he pull away? He's got himself just about half a second gap here. Oh, very slow into the turn for Espinoza, but he gets a decent run off. I thought Fredes might actually run into him.
Yeah, no, I was kind of keeping an eye on that one. It didn't look like I noticed any major mistakes or anything. Just a weird approach from what I can see.
Certainly an odd one. We are now 20 minutes into this thing. I think we are within the pit window. Makes me wonder, where is Modoff? Is he close enough to the pits? No, he's still got to go around about half a track. Maybe when he gets around this time, he'll be within the time frame that he could drive on in, get that damage repaired, get out with a faster car. Boy, close stuff. Oh, and a look to the inside, into Tower. Espinoza getting a little bit desperate here to take it back from Pfeffer. Almost backfires on him as Fredes now might have an opportunity.
That's the risk you take when you're in a tight pack like that, is you might have the opportunity to make a move, but you got to remember what you may be compromising if the move doesn't go in your favor.
When we had a problem with Pisano, he's off track. He wind up here. This is out of Tower. I wonder if this is a hardware problem because he just kind of pulls off and then he takes a tow eventually. Oh, he spun. Oh, this is into Cunningham, I think. Yeah, I think this is into Cunningham. Well, this is really bizarre here, Chris, because this is before the one I saw where he eventually ended it. That's Cunningham. He comes to a halt, and then he keeps going, and then parks the car a couple corners later.
Yeah, that is incredibly strange.
There you see him pulling into the grass and just going to end his day as we come back to 7th. Espinoza and Fredes. Oh, Fredes now gets by. So another position down for Andre.
Well, Fredes has been taking a look at that position the last several laps, so not too unsurprised, but now Pfeffer looks like that's going to give him a pretty good cushion there. Definitely the most breathing room he's had in quite a while.
I'm sure he appreciates it. He's got no one to try and fight in front of him, too. He's about 4 seconds off Justin Rain. He's not been running faster than him, unfortunately. So he'll get a bit of a quiet track by himself if he continues to gap these two, the 96 and the 87. Let's jump a little bit farther ahead. We were talking about Christian Eisler hoping for some good results. A third place would be decent, but I'm not sure he's out of the woods because Munoz, who's been making up for his first lap cut course penalty, is now caught up with the 727. And as he puts two wheels into the dirt coming out of Sunset Bend, he clearly is pushing hard.
Yeah, Munoz has shown no fear around this track. He is putting that car on every available piece of pavement. Is it pavement on an airstrip, or is it concrete? I don't even know.
I think it's concrete. They usually call it the tarmac, don't they? I don't know. This is old too. They haven't repaved this thing since they built it essentially in a couple places. We're getting word it's tarmac from our expert director. I'm willing to take his word for it. He's been down on racetrack surfaces a lot more than I have.
Concrete and patches of it. Okay, that makes sense from kind of what we're seeing on. You know, sometimes it's just hard to tell on these older surfaces because they're all bumpy and used up anyway.
As we continue to watch this fight between Munoz and Eisler on screen, I really wonder sometimes, Chris, even though I know it's a part of the nature of this track, at what point does it get too bumpy and they actually do have to pave some of that remaining airstrip that they use for this racetrack?
You know, it's kind of something that we've seen in the NASCAR world with a track like Atlanta Motor Speedway, where it's really a fine balance between a surface that is showing character and is part of the framework of what makes the track unique and what becomes unusable as a racetrack. I mean, you got tracks as new as Coda that had to go through a major resurfacing here not that long ago, and that track's less than 10 years old. But this track is decades old, and I mean the bumps are kind of what makes Sebring. So it's a balancing act between what's safe and what's keeping true to the character of the track.
Right now, Eisler is not safe because Munoz is right there and continues to look. Much tighter line down through turn 1 for Paulo. Doesn't give him a chance to try and attack, though. He still has to stay back there. So we now hop on board with the number 05, chasing the 727.
I gotta say, Munoz is running probably the most exciting line we've seen anybody run around this track, because he is, when it gets near a passing zone, he's really just trying to run wherever Eisler is not going to be.
I think it's a matter of time, if I'm honest. Christian's I mean, we call him the Iceman for a reason. He's a cool customer, but Paulo Munoz is looking very, very fast, and he's just biding his time, waiting for an opening that'll produce results. And once he does, he doesn't have that far to go to get up to second place. Tyler Dezube is only about 2 seconds in front of him.
So wait, you're saying you don't call him the Iceman because his name has the word ice in it?
Well, I mean, that certainly was part of it.
Okay. Because I was totally wrong about the reasoning behind it.
I mean, it just tied in well. So if you get an opportunity, pick that low-hanging fruit, I suppose. As they come on to the Ullman Straight one more time. And we have a bit of a battle going on back there, but I think we need to stay with this because this looks like a good run and the draft going to Paulo Munoz is going to allow him to duck to the inside. Doesn't get covered off by Eisler. He's not going to fight it. He knows he's a quicker car. He lets him through. Could have had the over-under maybe, but couldn't quite duck the car down in. So Paulo Munoz back onto the podium now.
And what a power move that was. I mean, obviously a little bit what that went into it was Eisler kind of giving him the room, but wow, that was just a pass with authority.
Looks like Romig just passed Jansen into Sunset Bend here. They've got Thurman just behind them also for position, but very similar move to what we just saw as Billy didn't cover off the inside, and that allowed Sean Romig to just send it in a little bit deeper. And oh, they got a car off there right in front of him. That's Gary Schilling. He's a lap down. That's a very vulnerable place to be. He gets it going before more come to him, but man, thank goodness nobody ran into him there. Let's look at what happened and put Schilling in that spot. Take another look at the replay here. That Ferrari definitely was spinning out. I don't think he had help. Yeah, rear just comes around on him. Didn't hit that inside wall. To his credit, he parks it and he keeps it in one place, which you really need to do in those situations.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of drivers maybe aren't aware enough of on the iRacing service. But
sorry to interrupt, but Christopher Pfeffer also had a spin. You can see he's getting it going once again, but he is way down the order. He's down to 19th already. This was a single car incident. Now, this isn't bad conditions other than the darkness. It's grippy out there at 75 degrees Fahrenheit. The 66 just all on his own. There it goes. Oh, he touched the grass. Just glanced it a little bit. And that's all he needed to throw away a ton of spots.
That's such a tough break. He worked really hard to get up into the position he was in, and unfortunately that incident's gonna give quite a bit of those away.
Ooh, we got one of our first takers for pit stops halfway through, and Espinoza ducks it down the lane. Looks like he's joined by, trying to figure out who that is, Pfeffer. So Pfeffer figures he's already lost spots, might as well come down and take his service, get back out. Espinoza, we're looking at about usually 12-second stops here. He's going a little long. 15 seconds for Andre, and he's going once again. By the way, Paulo Munoz is flying now that he's free of Christian Eisler. He's got that 2 seconds down to 1 second up to Tyler DeZube, and he's closing fast. Tyler might be sweating a little bit soon.
Yeah, with pit stops being imminent, that definitely could be Munoz also trying to put in some quick laps to get some time banked before he heads to pit road.
Right, so we're now at the halfway point. Pfeffer comes back out in 26th, by the way. Carollo's pitting. He was farther down in the order. I think this is scheduled for him. We'll see anybody else take the risk. Usually we see most drivers go very late in this series on the pit stops. One of our leaders come down. William is also going to stay out. Watching him come up the pit lane from out of the booth here as we continue to watch on board. This is Munoz chasing DeZube. And it looks like we do have a few takers. Huber, Lavender, Tremblay, all in a line. Right on board with Tremblay, now Thurman as well. Thurman just coming in behind them. Espinoza, I want to say, was a little bit ahead of this group. There's Lavender, the first of the train in his stall. Huber's out first, though. Huber is to the cones. Lavender. Actually, no, we were looking for. Who were we looking for here? Espinoza. Oh, and he's just out in front of him. Half a second between them. That was actually incredibly tight. And Espinoza just snuck out before Huber managed to snatch the position. Great stuff from Andre. Managed to keep from going too slow there. There's the pit comparison between the two of them. In fact, Espinoza actually was way slow. Look at that 3 seconds difference there, Chris.
Yeah, that's going to make a tremendous difference. That's 3 seconds, basically, that would take quite a long time to make up on the track that has just been basically given away.
Oh, and I believe we have our second place driver in. Dzube hits pit lane. Nobody else going with him. Munoz going to stay out. Eisler does as well. I wonder about this strategy call, though, Chris, because as quickly as Munoz was chasing Dzube, I have a feeling now that he's got clear track in front of him, he's probably going to be leapfrogging this Ferrari with ease.
I don't know. I think it could have possibly been a calculated risk. I mean, he did have Munoz running him down, but it's not like he was making any ground up on Acosta either. So maybe try something a little bit different and see what plays out.
When he comes out, there's a little bit of traffic in front of him. That's to Hamill, so this is going to slow him up. Sean has no impetus to pull aside. This is for position, even though they're on differing strategies. So is Sean going to play nice here, or is Dzube going to have to fight him for it as they come down towards the hairpin? Doesn't cover off the inside. He is going to break a little bit early, so it looks like Dzube going to move himself up into 14th. Where is Acosta in all this? 12.5 seconds over Munoz. This is a monster gap. Looking around. He is going to stay out for this lap. Munoz not interested in coming in. Or excuse me, Acosta not interested in coming in. Munoz is also coming his way around Sunset Bend, but decides to stay out for another lap. Eisler follows.
Now, with the kind of gap Acosta has, do you think he can get away with basically a free and clear pit stop? I know it's only 13 seconds, but I mean, do you think he can come out in a pretty good position in that amount of time?
You know, it's hard to say. He's not going to come out ahead of Munoz, I think. That's definitely too small of a gap. Robert Elder is in pit lane since then. Dzube should be able to overtake him. Looks like Romig also joining. There's a couple drivers that were around the Espinoza-Huber area. Right now, Espinoza, second highest pitter, and he's coming around Sunset Bend. Looks like Elder back out and moving, but he's not to the cones yet. Espinoza with his speed up down the front stretch. Where is he going to wind up? Elder's out. Espinoza's right behind him, and this is actually going to be incredibly tight once again. I think he's managed to get the position as long as Espinoza doesn't make a dive, and he does not. So Robert Elder returns in 16th, just ahead of Andre.
I gotta say, these pit stops are adding a pretty exciting wrinkle towards the middle of the field here, Joe.
He's Gary Schilling, a lap down car. He's just making sure he stays out of the way. Elder still dealing with a lot of pressure here. Espinoza, you're right. The pit stops are giving us some great stuff, because Espinoza could still go on the attack. And we do have our leader in, by the way. Let's stay on this, but Acosta is pitting. Through Collier they go, up towards Tower. Sneak attacks sometimes get seen into here, but very difficult to do. No such thing happening to Elder, as Espinoza not willing to risk the car with still 22 minutes left to go. More drivers pitting. Munoz is in. Rehm is in. Eisler stays out. But I think the majority of our drivers do look to be at the end of their fuel tanks.
Acosta looks like a pretty quick stop. He's already on the move, Joe.
And he is out in clear air, ahead of Karl Modoff, who's just behind him. Karl is yet to pit. This is critical for the number 5. He's got nobody to slow him down. It's just now down to him, rifling off good laps to make sure nobody's able to gain during this pit stop sequence. Fredes returns to the track himself. Very few cars left, as most of them have come down pit lane. And Espinoza once again finding himself in traffic. Is this Fredes? Yes, it is. Fredes fighting with Robert Elder, but they come together. Oh, and they're going to have to take evasive action, but Espinoza goes off and he gets hit once again by Lavender. Sneaking through, that was Huber and Fredes. That little bit messy. Fred is returning from his pit stop, having some contact there. Some slight ghost contact as well. There you see Fred is coming out of pit lane. It's always scares me exiting the pits here, Chris.
Yeah, it's such a sketchy point to rejoin the track. I mean, you were right there, right in the mix of things. And as we saw here, it did not quite work out.
Elder got turned to the side and hit slightly again. Had to wait for the track to clear, and then poor Espinoza got tipped again as he tried to go around him.
Yeah, that last little part there where he almost got ran into after he went off the track. I'm glad I had my microphone muted, because over here I just shouted, "Oh," because I'm a professional and I make spur of the moment calls really great. But wow, that was quite an incident.
All right, and Acosta has finished his stop and retaken the lead. Munoz is back into second because Eisler's finished his pit stop. He returns in third, ahead of Dzube, interestingly. So he overtook Dzube in those pits. Modoff is now down pit lane. Watching from Dzube's perspective. Boy, Tyler actually lost out big time. Can we get a pit comparison between Dzube and Eisler? Because he was at least decently ahead. He was worried about Paulo Munoz passing him, which he did, but instead also lost out to Christian Eisler. I wonder if it was that off traffic? Yeah, it had to have been, because Eisler was only quicker by about a second. That's not enough for him to have jumped him on that alone.
Well, there's a lot that goes into these pit stops, and sometimes the in-lap and out-lap are just equally as important as the stop itself.
Wow, Modoff is hurting this race. Modoff returns to the track in 23rd, and he had a long stop, 54 seconds. So our multi-time champion must have had something go really, really wrong and gotten a penalty. As we have, did I hear Espinoza? Espinoza's in for a second stop. I think something bad happened here. Let me take a look and see if he ran into issues. Oh yeah, excuse me. We saw it. He was involved in that incident, so he must have actually tipped his suspension in that contact that he made, and he had to come in for repairs. As we now come back to 9th place, where we've got Romig on the Ullman Straight being chased by Lowendick and Tremblay.
I gotta say, this is a pretty cool visual here. This is a track that the history kind of speaks for itself, and watching these cars race around at night is absolutely a breathtaking sight.
Oh, and it sounds like we got some reports from some of the friends of Espinosa. He's got 11 minutes of repairs from that contact. It has to be suspension damage then. That is really unfortunate for him. 17 minutes left to go. We still have a lot of racing left. And, well, we are starting to lose some of those cars we were talking about that we expected to lose. Calquin Pisano, as we watch the battle for 13th here on screen. Carollo is also gone. Schilling is multiple laps down, but he's still going. Mundy has DNF'd, and Espinosa now seems to be our latest.
I think it's really a testament to these drivers that, given all the handicaps that they've been handed for this race, just to make it even harder on them, that the amount of drivers we have lost really isn't that many. I mean, this is a race that's kind of headed for disaster, it looked like, from the start, and these drivers have ran a fairly tame race compared to what I was expecting going into it.
Right now we're riding on board with Duino, and that's Pfeffer in front of him. Pfeffer's not had a tame race. He's started from 9th and he's down to 12th. We've watched him spin off track of his own doing. He's got a car off in front of them. That's Tremblay. Let's continue to watch them fight and keeping half an eye on Fredes, who's gaining on Huber, and actually might have a pass here. We see it on screen. The yellow Ferrari managing to keep Fredes behind for the time being. Oh, but he goes way wide off of Sunset Bend, and now he's going to be a sitting duck. Here comes the number 96, looking around the outside, and I think he's got it done as Ken Huber lets him through.
Yeah, that was about as textbook as it gets there down the straightaway. Just one little mistake, and that opened the door.
Now, here's something curious. Oh, as we had a problem with Duino. I was about to go to our top 3, but Duino is into the wall, and that Ford looks like it's got some damage.
Looks like we're gonna
be big damage that we see here, Chris.
Yeah, I've got the replay machine fired up here for you.
Oh, starts to lose it all on his own and overcorrects, and he was a spear into those tires. I'm amazed the car's still going.
That's a kind of a tough pill to swallow for the drivers when it goes like that, but a track like this, there's definitely no shame in that.
Let's head back to second place, because Munoz actually for a while had less than a second back to Eisler. Now he's extended that gap a little bit. You can see he's pulled away. But Munoz, Eisler, and Azube, these are the 3 that you see on screen that are fighting for second place. I thought that with Munoz's pace we saw before, Chris, that he would just leave them behind into the darkness, and that's not been the case.
No, I kind of thought there was going to be a little bit more of a battle with how close those two had gotten, but looks like things have kind of gone the other way a little bit.
Then we got to change for position between Romig and Lavender. Looks like Romig is going to be able to get 8th place away from P9 now. Look at how that happened. It was through Sunset Bend. Ooh, Romig is going to be brave here. He's in the Ford behind the Ferrari. Wow, very late move. Scared him off the racing line. Romig just wasn't willing to take the risk. So we come back live. There's another battle with Romig. This time it's Lowendick, and he's going around the outside of Big Bend. Is Lavender damaged? And behind them, action going on as well. Pfeffer and Tremblay side by side into the hairpin. Tremblay, the victor of those two, taking 11th.
Well, these guys definitely are not going to just cruise out the final 13 minutes or so of this event. They're going to be still digging here all the way to the end. It looks like, ooh, saw somebody get big loose there for a moment.
Seems like some of the drivers certainly struggling as they get to the end. Wonder if the mental fatigue of having to focus for this long in the darkness is taking its toll. As all this is happening, I can tell you that the second, third, and fourth place drivers have once again come down to less than half a second between each of them. Munoz leading Eisler, leading Zube. All of this 15 seconds behind Acosta, who continues to cruise. Ooh, big off there for Zube. All kinds of dust kicked off, and he lost a little bit of time. It was about 0.3 of a second that he lost there, and another little bit of a problem. Zube maybe pushing too hard here.
Well, we're in the closing stages of this one, so I think you made the comment about mental fatigue here racing in the darkness for so long. And as intense as the racing's been, I think that mental fatigue factor could be really stepping up here in the end portions of this race.
Seems like it is for Zube for sure. He's dropped now to about 1.1 seconds when before it was 0.4 between himself and Eisler. They come down into tower once more. Eisler had it. Oh, and a big mistake from Munoz. Munoz giving the position away as Christian Eisler sneaks through in tower to get back into second place. This is the kind of gift that the Iceman needed. And I didn't see anything drastic there, just straight out break himself. Interesting.
Yeah, it looks like he may have beat himself on that one.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the story of the race for Munoz, because you think about what put him in the spot that he had to try and run those positions back down. It was a cut course penalty. Again, his own doing, and no one to blame for himself, but himself, rather. And giving away second position is kind of the same. Now, he was quick enough to run them down before. Does he have the pace to keep doing so? It really hasn't looked like it after the pit stops, but you never know. A little bit behind them, Lowendick and Lavender are about 0.3 of a second apart, coming down into the sunset hairpin.
See, I think they should call that hairpin something different based on the time of day. It's not sunset right now.
Yeah, it's about 8:30 p.m. virtual standard time here at Sebring. They started the practice just at the tail end of the day and has since gone into the night. As they work their way around turn 5 and into Big Bend. Lo and Dick doing a good job of keeping Lavender at arm's length. Now we've got a little bit of a battle brewing in front of them. Fredes, who we've been watching, that was Simkovic a lap down, who we saw slowing and letting them through. Fredes has been a lot of the action we've been showing on screen. Huber following him, and Romig all in a trio.
Yeah, these are three drivers that have really kind of been at the heart of a lot of excitement we've had here today. Looks like Huber is just waiting for the right spot. He looks like he's got a pretty good, some pretty good pace as he's running down Fredes, and he's going to make the move. No, looks like he backed off there at the last second.
Boy, he's threatening though. If he gets a good launch out of them all, that's all he needs. But he's starting to back away from him. That is not what he needed. A gap up to Fredes extends as Romig cuts his down behind him. From attack to defense, because Romig has pulled this move before. We've seen him duck to the inside. He's going to try it again, but he can't shake and bake Ken Huber off the racing line.
That's kind of something we touched on earlier, too, where you're making a compromise when you're trying to attack when you have somebody on your tail also. As it looks like Huber pulls out, thinks of maybe trying the outside. Nope, I thought he was going to dive bomb, but now he leaves the door open for Romig.
Yeah, Romig saw an opportunity. He tried to take it, but it wasn't quite there. He's going to give it another shot down into turn 3. Once again, door gets shut, so the number 30 is going to retain 7th place.
Huber's pretty lucky that Romig thought better of it. If Romig had just stayed in it for another second, Huber probably would have been pirouetting around the track there.
Saying that Huber had a lot of hubris with that move.
Yes, a lot of hubris.
Oh, and Tremblay, did he just lose a position here? Christopher Pfeffer side by side with him as they come down into Cunningham, but Pfeffer, this is where he spun it out before. He's not on that side of the track, thankfully. If he can just hold on to it, and he does, that's going to put Tremblay down into 12th. Very close action here amongst our drivers.
Not only that, they're really not that far away from the battle we were just watching either.
Really not. And I hate to yank us around too much, but Christian Eisler 2/10 ahead of Paulo Munoz. Look at this. Munoz is looking to try and attack. He had a peek into Sunset Bend, but it didn't quite work out. Dzube regained the ground that he lost. Oh, down to the inside, sending it in deep, and they make a little bit of contact. That's going to spin Christian Eisler out. He's pointed the wrong way, but no one's coming up to him quite yet. He's got time to get it going once again, but he falls to 4th after, once again, a big theme tonight. Ghost contact, unfortunately, between the two.
Yeah, I'd be nothing but disappointed right now if I was Christian Eisler the way that one played out.
And he gave him space. I don't think either one did anything wrong. It wasn't too late of a move from Munoz. It was aggressive but fair. He was alongside him by the apex. And that means we're robbed of a nice battle between the two of them for the remaining few minutes. Dzube's still in there. He could still make this a fight for P2, but he had to back out of it to try and keep out of Eisler, so it's gone up to 9/10 of a second. So let's jump back down once again to Fredes in 6th, with Huber and Romig just behind.
Honestly, I think we could have just left the camera on Fredes the whole time and probably had a whole show out of it. He's kind of been at the center of a lot of action today. As Huber once again gets a good run off the corner. He's not quite there yet, but I think we're going to see him be making a move here hopefully soon.
Yeah, Fredes went defensive into Tower and gave him a horrible exit. No defensive move into Le Mans. He knows he doesn't want to get a bad run down the Ullman straight, so none of the three really looking like they're going to be able to attack as they come up to Sunset Bend.
Yeah, I was thinking for a second there that Huber may have been backed into Romig, or backed up to Romig, I should say.
Romig's still trying stuff, though. Very different line from Huber, and actually it might pay off because he's got a great run coming down the front stretch. He shows his nose. They come to the first corner, and he's going to send it in deep, but he's got to get the run off the turn, and he keeps it on the pavement. So does Huber, but not enough of an exit for the number 30. So he falls down to 8th as we have another issue with David Duino. This one in Sunset Bend. Single car incident. He spins himself out. Don't know if we need a replay. Just send it into the grass and got it going once again.
But in the meantime, Joe, we still have a whale of a battle going on between Fredes, Huber, and Romig.
And still 3 cars all together. So Romig manages to snatch it from Huber, but can he now overtake Fredes? That's the question. And Romig, by the way, legitimate qualifying of 20th place. Didn't sandbag it and start without a qualifying lap. Up to 7th now. Looking at 6th place. This is this is the hard charger for me.
Yeah, that's I'd say that's a pretty fair statement, Joe.
Watch from the third in line now, the Ferrari of Ken Huber, looking ahead at Romig's Ford, trying to see if he can get to the Ferrari in front of him. Number 96 of Fredes, but I don't think it's happening here because he's a little too far back. Staying in line out of Sunset Bend, but Romig still looking strong. Has just about a car length up to Fredes as they hit turn 1.
And Romig really hasn't been afraid to make the bold moves either. So it'll be really interesting to see him and Fredes kind of battle it out here, because both of them have been very liberal with their use of the track.
And I'm watching this battle on screen at the same time that I'm keeping half an eye on Abner Acosta, who looks like he's about to finish his penultimate lap. Still very, very close amongst these three. So one mistake could hand the position over. Oh man, Romig is getting oh so tight, just as we're getting the white flag from Abner Acosta.
Acosta has ran just a tremendous race today. Literally, it seems like no mistakes. Everything has gone exactly the way that he wanted as he drives off into the evening. We still have that tremendous 3-car battle going on with Fredes, Romig, and Huber. That looks like that one's going to be fighting off to the very end of this race.
So let's check in on another one who's trying to climb back forward. Pfeffer back here looking to get into the top 10, to at least be close to where he started this race. As he takes it around Sunset Bend, not able to do anything on Lavender. And he's only got one lap to make it happen. Right on the roof of Christopher. Multi-time winner in this series, but not necessarily doing so great today at this race. He was quick in the warm-up. Doesn't seem to have anything after that.
Well, he's had some trouble in this race too, so trying to make the best of what's been a bit of an adventurous day for him.
Got a little bit more time here for this battle on screen, but I can tell you that Acosta is already on the Ullman straight. Through the hairpin, they stay in the same order. Will Cunningham hold anything for them? We won't know for a second because Abner Acosta is coming around the final turn of the track. 20-second lead over everybody else. Flashing his lights in celebration, the number 5 takes the victory here today at Sebring. Munoz still under threat from Dzube, but Tyler's not been able to close it down ever since he lost time from avoiding Eisler. Munoz climbing back to second. Who would have thought after all the problems he had? Dzube rounding out your podium, and poor Christian Eisler got it going and finished a long ways back and off of the podium spots. Let's head back to Fredes and Romig now. Oh, and Romig got a slowdown penalty. Romig is pulling off to the side to let Ken Huber by.
Well, that's probably the worst time that could have happened.
Is he going to try and swing it back on him? I think he might. Oh, Huber's out of fuel. Huber is out of fuel and sputtering to the line. He's not only going to lose that spot back, but Ted Lowendick is going to get by, and so is Lavender. Huber 3 places down at the very end from a miscalculation. We're going to watch from on board just to confirm that this is a fuel issue. Yeah, there it is, sputtering away. Unbelievable. The last of the drivers are now coming across the line. Believe we had 21 on the lead lap. Actually, looks like might have been 25. Regardless, Abner Acosta, your winner today, is going to celebrate as we take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, but stick around because on screen you're going to see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Sebring International Raceway. Round 9 saw our points leader extend that points lead by a decent gap, which could mean that it's going to be easy for Acosta to take the championship come the finale. But for now, he gets to celebrate victory here over Paulo Munoz by 22nd. Paulo really setting the tone for his race with a slowdown penalty on the very first lap and had to fight his way back to this second spot where he qualified. And in fact, all three of our podium finished exactly where they qualified. Tyler Zube in third was followed by Christian Eisler. Big credit to him. He was up in second for a while and thought maybe he could hold off Munoz, but it was just an unfortunate act of the internet that cost him that, as the netcode caused him to spin, with Justin Rame finishing fifth behind him as well. Fredes, big climb there from 13th to 6th. Even bigger for Sean Romig from 20th to 7th. Ted Lowendick with an 8th spot was ahead of Caleb Lavender in 9th. And Ken Huber, who we saw just barely coast across the line, did grab a top 10.
Just outside of the top 10 is Christopher Pfeffer, recovering to finish 11th with Jean-Marc Tremblay in 12th. Bill Jansen was lucky number 13, followed by Leif Peterson. Then you saw Robert Elder. He had a pretty exciting race himself, coming home 15th, and Ignacio Hortal in 16th. Brett Thurman was able to make it 17th, moving up some spots from his starting position. And then Sean Duhamel, David Duino, another adventurous race for him, and Jason Ray completing the top 20.
Then once we get to 21st, it's Carl Modoff, shockingly, from 8th to 21st. A really bad day. Second lap around, clobbering the wall, and then just couldn't get it underneath him after that. 22nd for James LeBlanc, with Christopher Albright in 23rd, the last car on the lead lap. Kenny Rodriguez, Spencer Simkovich, and Gary Schilling, the last drivers to actually finish this race. Everybody from there on down is DNFs. And we have Abner Acosta ready to talk to us as I'm going to pull a quote from my friend Bill Zahn. The night is dark and full of terrors, and it has to have been just a little bit darker there for you, Abner, because as soon as we saw the green flag, you left everybody behind and didn't seem like you saw anybody for the whole length of the race.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess Paulo got a slowdown in the first lap, and that I figured he would be able to stay on the draft with me with the pace that he had. But as soon as he made that mistake, I just made sure I just didn't look back.
Yeah, and well, you wouldn't have much to look back at because there's no headlights in your mirror for much of the time. This puts you in a very good position. Eisler finishing fourth means that 16-point gap has gone up at least a fair bit to allow you to really cruise home in the finale. And how does that make you feel?
Makes me feel good. That was my main goal this past two races. They were decent tracks for me, so I wanted to make sure I got the maximum points so I could get at least a big cushion for that last race. So yeah, feeling good about that.
I would imagine. So now that Sebring is behind us and you're spying a potential championship victory, I mean, do you have plans on what you'll be doing with your winnings for your third potential championship? You don't want to curse it yet.
I don't want to jinx it yet, but don't know. I'll be here next week, and I do like walk-ins. So I know that would be a good track for me again. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, we'll watch out for you. Obviously, you're still able to be overtaken, but it's looking pretty comfortable. Anybody you want to thank before you go?
Yes, I want to thank my team. This is one of the few races I actually ran one of their setups that they worked on very hard on. So I want to thank Nirvana Racing, GSRC for you guys for broadcasting, Simsa, and Bucket.
Awesome stuff. That was Abner Acosta, your winner here today. Well, Chris has caught up with Paulo Munoz. The 05 did not have a perfect race, but still managed to make up for his mistakes.
Well, Paulo, a very exciting race for you today. Looks like you had that issue at the opening corner there, so to speak. Got that slowdown and looked like it hindered you a bit, but you were able to come back and finish second. Were you thinking maybe your race was done with at that point, or did you have the confidence in your car to make your way back up?
No, I knew I was a bit faster than the guys ahead. I didn't know what kind of pace Christian had, but I was pretty confident I could get into the podium. I knew I wasn't going to catch Abner or anything. We practiced quite a lot in the week, and the only way I could stay with him was drafting. So the win was gone at that point.
Now there was that incident with you and Christian running side by side. Looks like the net code may have reached out and bit Christian a little bit. That had to have been disappointing because you guys are having such a great race going.
Yeah, and we know each other personally. He lives in the same city as I do, so it's kind of a bummer. I'd like to apologize publicly to him and the whole Puntacion team for that. That dive was unnecessary, and it ended it was going to be a good battle till the end.
All right, Paulo. Anyone you want to thank that helped make this race possible for you?
Oh yeah, my team, Anthony and everyone, and of course you guys for streaming this. Apart from our sponsors, the Formula Hypersoft, Bad Kicker, Bruce Simware, and G Performance.
All right. Well, congratulations again on a great second place run, and Joe, I believe you've caught up to our third place finisher.
Yeah, Tyler DeZube, another one that was sort of up and down and all over, but not as much to his own mistakes. Although the one thing that I want to ask Tyler is we saw you peel off a little bit earlier than Paulo as he was starting to catch you. Usually we would expect the driver to stay out so that he doesn't get leapfrog, especially when Paulo seemed to be quicker. What was your reasoning for coming in? Because it lost you the spot initially.
Yeah, so I know Paolo's pace, and it's faster than mine. So I was going to give up the position to him, but I didn't want to lose time to Christian by doing so. But as you saw, I pitted early, and then I guess just that extra 9 gallons of gas slows you down so much that Christian was able to, I guess that would be an overcut.
Yeah, in the end, it didn't quite work out at first, but then you had the action going up and on in front of you. We were talking to Paulo a little bit about it. You had to take some avoiding action. If you didn't have to lose a little time trying to go around Eisler, do you think you could have had anything for Paulo in the last couple laps?
You know, it's interesting. Before pit stops, Paolo was catching me at a consistent about 2/10 per lap. But after pit stops, I don't know if it's just the psychology. I felt like I was faster than both of them, and I know I'm in the draft, but I still felt like um, I just had more left in the tires or something. But but yeah, once I lost the draft, I was only able to keep the same pace with Paolo.
Yeah, it stayed close down to the finish, and we kept an eye on it just in case you had something for him, but it just wasn't enough. What about Watkins Glen? We've got one more round to go in the season, and then we'll take a short break. Do you consider that a strong one for you?
It is, but I just got some new pedals, and so I think this is going to be a learning week for me. So do not expect a strong finish from me this upcoming week.
Yeah, time to get some practice in and readjust. Still, great job today, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you one more time before we head to break.
Yep. Thank you. Good night.
That was Tyler DeZube, third place finisher in the number 21 Ferrari. But we're going to close out with some thank yous of our own. We have to thank our sponsor, Simulation Motorsports Affinity, for, of course, helping out for multiple seasons here in the PRL GTE Sports Car Series, but also to Butt Kicker, who provides awesome prizes for our contestants here in this series. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Also, thanks to iRacing for putting us on IESN. Make sure and subscribe to the channel. Very easy to do so. Just click the big red button that says subscribe. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast, so you can see them listed on your screen. Also, thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, Chris, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Or check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, we've got a merchandise store. It's at gsrc.storenvy.com. We got a link in the description below if you don't want to type it in. And also don't forget to watch our upcoming races, including Watkins Glen, which is coming up a week from now, Tuesday, 25th of February at 9 p.m. Eastern. We have other upcoming races for other series listed on the screen. Check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.